Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. It's Chad Hyams here and Bob Stewart over there. Bob, how are you doing today?
Chad, I'm fantastic. I am absolutely fantastic.
Give me a reason, Bob.
It's a beautiful day here in Seattle. I woke up this morning. I have healthy family. I don't know. That's three reasons. I'm here with you.
There you go, Bob. That's what I figured it was. You were just so excited to get to spend more time with me as we record an episode of the Win, Make, Give podcast today.
Yes. That's actually my number one reason, but I buried the lead. That's what they call that in journalism. I buried the lead.
Speaking of journalism, now I'm going to timestamp when this happened. Have you heard the news? Ted Turner just passed away.
Yeah, I did hear that this morning. I actually saw one of our place partners, Jill Littlepage, had written a thing about it because apparently she worked for him at Turner Broadcasting like early days. It's a pretty cool little story. She talked about how like in the upstairs, they had like a 3-story building, and in the upstairs, they actually did the wrestling. Like, you know, Turner in the early days had WCW wrestling. It was like, it was like NWA, I think it was even called it that, with old Ric Flair and all those guys. But she said that they would wrestle in that building, like on the 3rd floor. So she's like, when we were working downstairs, you could hear the wrestling matches going on upstairs. Anyway.
Awesome. You know, it doesn't matter some of the things. Ted Turner made an impact. That is for sure. And Bob, I will bet he had a vision.
You know what's funny, Chad, is the way she wrapped that, her kind of tribute to Ted Turner up, was she mentioned that he was the first visionary that she'd ever come in contact with. And now she's got Ben Kinney as kind of the next visionary that she's partnered with. So yeah.
Well, Ben likes wrestling. We know Ben wrestled. So, I mean, we see the tie-in between Ted Turner and, you got the Ben Kinney wrestling card in your card collection.
What about that, huh?
Yes. Is that the limited edition?
Limited edition. It's got a singlet and everything. If you want that Ben Kinney wrestling card, they're hard to come by.
They are.
Shout out to Brian Gubernick.
Yes. I am staying away from your card collecting fantasies. I had so many comic books and so many cards, and mom and dad do what a mom and dad typically do. They've thrown away thousands of dollars of that stuff.
I bet if from a young age you had been telling them that one day you were going to open the biggest card shop, the biggest comic book shop in the world, and you had a really great vision for what that would look like, and you broadcast that vision and you bought the family in on the vision, I bet they wouldn't have thrown those things away.
Yeah, my dad probably still would have, Bob. I love my dad,
Mr.
and my
Hyams,
dad
vision crusher.
My dad would have thrown those away. He would have been like, get these damn comic books out of my house. Yeah, Bob, we've mentioned it twice now, between my lack of comic book and card store vision and Ted Turner's amazing vision. Why do we keep mentioning it? Because I challenged you to come up with our outline for today. As we do, we'll alternate who's coming up with them. And you just came from an event not too long ago where the vision casting was being done. So you said, Chad, I don't even remember when we talked about this last, and 500 plus episodes, Bob. I don't know what was yesterday and what was season 1 anymore. Yet we're going to talk yet again about the power of how to, pitfalls, etc. of vision casting today.
Yeah. So here's you had said, hey, you were with the big company event last week, and I got to spend time with Ben and our other co-founder at Place, Chris Suarez, and you said, hey, any good ideas that came out of last week? And initially I responded, I'm like, I don't have anything right now, but not that. I said, I'll think on it. You said, yeah, do that. And so a little while later, it's one of those, the whole point of kind of what Ben and Chris presented was the vision of our company Place. And they did it against a backdrop of Disneyland. I mentioned in our last episode at the beginning, we sent about 1,000 people to Disneyland, and
the happiest place on earth.
The happiest place on earth. Ben, the marketing genius he is, gave them all a t-shirt. So he had 1,000 people walking around with the exact same t-shirt, which is brilliant when you think about it, because the other I don't know how many, the other 40,000 people that were at Disneyland, then they're all noticing this. They're all asking people about it. And then they all, like a dandelion, they all go back to their separate corners of the United States, the world in some cases, right? With the idea that, man, there's this company out there that had 1,000 people. Anyway, Ben and Chris cast the vision of place against the backdrop of Walt Disney and the way he cast the vision for Disneyland.
Yeah, Ben always has talked about it, and you'd probably have to scroll back to season 1. We absolutely have an episode where Ben talks about Walt being the ultimate visionary. Ben used to have a copy of that. He probably still does on his wall in his office of Walt's original vision plan.
Yeah, that original drawing where Walt sat down before, any of us even knew the word Disneyland, and he drew out like what would come to fruition over the next 50 years, in many cases almost 100 years now. And so I thought today we'd talk a little bit about vision.
Okay. Bob, quick, easy way to know if my people know the vision would be to ask a question of everybody in my organization. What question might I ask that would let me know where I stand on this?
Pretty easy one would just be to ask everybody, where are we going? Like, where is this company headed? Where are we going?
Would you believe if you worked at Tesla and asked that question, everybody at Tesla would have the answer?
Yeah.
Would you believe at Apple, everybody would have the answer?
I think you'd probably look. I think and maybe the same thing could be said about Tesla. And I haven't worked inside those organizations, so I don't know. But here's what I would imagine: the further you got from the top, the less clear it might be.
Okay.
At least that's the case. That's the way it feels in our organization. Like you're a big organization. Like, you got people joining every single day. You got people leaving. But I would say, like, at the top, absolutely. There's no question at Tesla. They all have a shared vision and they know what that is. And Elon Musk has done a good job of buying people into that vision. I do think that the bigger the organization, the lower you go, Chad, the less clear it is. And it's one of the reasons why, Ben made a comment about it. Kind of, we do this full thing with, all the people, and the day before it's kind of a smaller subset. And he made the comment, hey, tomorrow you guys are going to hear me say things you've heard me say 50 times, but there's going to be people in that room that are hearing it for the first time. There's going to be people in the room that weren't ready for it when they heard it the first 3 times. So Ben and Chris are big believers in continuing to cast that vision, because we want to be able to ask everybody on the team, hey, where are we going? And they all have, a same or very, very similar answer.
Right. The question is, does the Amazon delivery guy that brought a package to my house an hour ago, does he know and has he bought into the vision of what Amazon is? Or is he just, I don't care, I needed a paycheck and my job's to run from door to door, right?
Yeah.
Does the guy putting the bolt on that next Tesla know exactly why it matters that he puts it on just right and does that because he has the vision? And Bob, would you agree that the more people who have it, probably the stronger the corporation is?
Yeah, 100%. Ben shared a story last week of the janitor at NASA that, I don't know, one of the presidents had gone on a tour through NASA, like as we're getting ready to send it might have been Kennedy, as we're getting ready to send a man to the moon. And he had stopped a guy in the hall and he'd asked the guy, hey, what do you do here? And the guy was a janitor. And he said, I helped put a man on the moon.
Right.
And like, he really bought into that, So yeah, I think the more people, the lower you go. And I hate to use higher and lower but just, organizationally, the deeper you get into the organization, the more people that know what it is and are bought in to it, I think the better, because, when you have a real crystal clear vision, it becomes easier to make decisions about what you do day in and day out, because, you want to be doing things that are in support of that vision, Chad.
I think, Bob, you just said a magic phrase right there. Right? What a vision is, one of those things is it's a filter for decisions, right? Having a vision is a filter for decisions because you'll make the right choices, because all you have to do is answer, does this help us achieve our vision? Does this get us where we're going, right? Having a strong vision, Bob, is going to be a magnet to people. You mentioned it. Some people right? The more people that buy into it and the more people who know the vision, the more people that believe in the vision and therefore are sharing the vision, Now, all of a sudden, more people want to come work for that company. How many people have said, oh, if I only knew what Google was going to become, I would have gone to work there before to help because of what they turned into, all that kind of stuff. It becomes a magnet and it becomes that clear picture. Can we agree, Bob, that vision is not just, some plaque that's hanging up on the wall somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it literally is like forecasting the future, letting everybody know what we're going to do to get there, right? And then aligning everybody to work towards getting there. You mentioned it becomes a magnet for people. It was really interesting last week because in the room with us were, Ben encourages our partners to bring essentially a recruit or a prospect, somebody that might consider joining the mission, right? Every one of those folks that was in the room walked out of there and are like, where do I sign up? Like, I want in on this. And I think nothing more than Ben casting this vision that I think before they walked in, they didn't know they wanted to be a part of it or not. But once they saw it, they were like, oh yeah, like this is silly. I have to be a part of this.
Yeah, so why wouldn't I want to be on that train that's going at a high speed in a certain direction? All right, Bob, let's start with the downside. Let's just start with the cost of not having a vision. What do you think? Give me something that is a problem that's going to arise because we do not have a clear vision in our organization.
I think the bigger your organization gets, the more this is a thing, and it's just misalignment of the teams.
Okay.
I've seen this in other companies that I've been in that maybe, in some
left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
Yeah. And in some ways, like I always thought like what's the point here? Like we're just, okay, we sell software. We're just going to sell software to people until somebody else comes up with a better software, and so what would happen in these organizations is because there's no North Star guiding like where we're headed, you've got people working on different things. And I can remember being like, what? We do that here? Like who decided that, And so yeah, misalignment, people working on the wrong things, not because they're not smart people, not because that thing wasn't maybe a good idea in some capacity, right? But is it serving the mission, Chad? Is it driving us to where we want to go? And if we don't know where we want to go, then the answer is always kind of, yeah, let's try it.
Okay. Bob, I would throw in there burnout is something if we don't have a strong vision, because if people don't know where we're going, we don't know if we got there.
Yeah.
Right. If I get in a car and I'm going to drive from me in Florida to you in Seattle and I'm going to come visit, okay, I have a vision of where I want to go on the drive. At least every checkpoint, every new state I come to, there's excitement. I'm that much closer every 1,000-mile or every hotel stop. Yet if I just say, oh, I'm going to drive and I don't know where I'm going to burn out of driving as I just zigzag around the country going, okay, pretty things to see. Yet at some point, I need to get somewhere. So burnout will be something, folks, that will happen in your organizations if you are not having a strong vision. Bob, is there anything else that falls in that not having a strong vision you want to kind of scare our audience with?
Well, I guess I'd go back to that decision making. Like if the positive side is we have a vision and it helps us make decisions, then the opposite side is we're going to be inconsistent, Chad, with those decisions, right? Like sometimes, and not only are we like the decision maker going to be inconsistent, the people that follow us, that are a part of the organization, they're going to start to question like the decisions. Right? If we don't have a North Star the decisions are being made towards, then it leaves everybody open to decide and interpret if that was a good decision or not. And I think that in and of itself leads to burnout because I feel like, man, that wasn't a good decision. I don't even know if I like working here anymore.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bob. And you put a great note in here. You mentioned that said, if your team always needs you to make every decision, you don't have a leadership problem. You actually have a vision problem. Right? Yeah. Because if you know what the vision is, you can make decisions. You know what the vision is for the Win, Make, Give podcast. So if you want to book a guest specifically, I know you leave a lot of that. If you met somebody and you're like, wow, that's a guest, right? You know the vision of the podcast to be able to say you fit. You know the decision to be able to say, no, that person's not a fit for the podcast. I'm not just going to invite them on and schedule them to it. because we have a clear vision for what Win Make Give is attempting to bring to people. Folks, if you're needed for every decision, you have a vision problem, because people should know the answer to the decision without even having to ask you.
Chad, I think back, there's been, I mentioned one company, and I won't say any names. The companies that I've been a part of that lack
We'll just
vision.
call it Arctic A Eaterlay. Yeah, we won't use any names.
Okay. But I've been, look, I didn't know about this stuff. Like, we had a real estate company early on that, we had a lot of leads and we were really good at online marketing, but we didn't have any vision of what we wanted to turn it into, what we wanted it to become. I would say every day we were making decisions that a week later we'd make a different decision. And, we attracted people that didn't have a lot of vision. I think we attracted a motley crew of, some nice humans and things, but I don't know that they were all rowing in the same direction, Chad. So I've definitely, been a part of organizations of my own doing that didn't have much vision. But I'd like to think like the company I'm a part of now, and again, it's why we're doing this, Ben cast this really grand, big vision.
Yes. All right. So we talked about some of the things that not having a vision does, Bob. I'm just going to say the opposite, right? Having a strong vision, obviously it creates alignment. Every department knows what's going on. Your shoulder and your knee know what's going on in your body when you have a great vision. Decision making, it's easier for everybody because we know, does this move us towards our vision or not? Decisions are easier to make. And of course, we already mentioned it is a magnet and a retention tool for clients and talent into the organization, because they buy into the vision. They want to be a part of what's going to get them from point A to point Z. Bob, is there anything else that having a real strong vision does that you want to add to that list? Since I didn't want to just say, waste too much time on opposite of everything we just said.
I think we've nailed this. Let's get in. Let's talk a little bit about like how to start thinking about this. And if you don't have one, Chad, how to start kind of building this out. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You want to give them, I think I have here, you kind of gave me 4 steps. Is that where you're ready to jump to?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say, like, and this would have been our problem early on in our real estate brokerage, is like, our vision was essentially like, how much business do we want to do, Chad? Like, right. In the very beginning, it was like, how many houses do we need to sell every month to pay the bills? Right. Yep. And then it was like, okay, now we want to make some money. Like, we've got a revenue target, but we didn't have any vision. And so what I would say is the first step is to get outside of kind of the numbers, right? Or the revenue or the number of units that you're looking to sell, and think about like, what do you actually want to impact?
Yep.
Right. Like, I think here at Place, we sell a lot of houses. We have a lot of revenue. I think we did 600 million in revenue last year, and we're on track to be at 800 million this year, something like that. Right. We have a lot of revenue, but the impact that Ben and Chris have set in front of us that we want to make is we want to make it easier to be a homeowner.
Yes.
Not make it easier for you to buy a house or sell a house, but actually the entire life cycle of home ownership. We want to make that easier. And that's an impact. Chad, you're a homeowner.
Huge impact.
Yeah, I'm a homeowner. Like, I'm going to have to figure out here pretty soon. I've got this little part of my roof that when it rains here, it leaks in a weird spot, kind of on the outside, and it's creating a little bit of a mark on this fascia board up on the. I gotta find somebody to like go. I don't know, I'm gonna go find a handyman or I want somebody to show up and make that process easier for me, right? And so, I think the first thing is to think about what can my impact be? Like, what's something we can go impact, and vision. It points to you solving a problem or impacting something, not
and
just
folks, let's
how
be
many
real
houses
clear.
or how much revenue.
Your impact doesn't have to be that big, right? It might not be, I'm going to make home ownership easier for everybody. It might be something smaller. It might be something about your community. It might be something about your family, which leads to, Bob, another piece of that could be legacy, right? Thinking what your legacy is, that might help you create a vision. And I'll tell you, and lifestyle, right? I've talked about it on the podcast that we are working, Nita and I, our vision is to be able to relocate right now into the EU. And we are working on making that vision a reality. So every decision we make has been about that. Oh, you want to go on a vacation? Great. We should be going to the EU. So we're scouting. Oh, you want to do this? Okay, great. We should do that because it's part of our vision. It's made the decisions easier because we've made a vision, and it's more than just make this much money or sell this many blank.
Hey, Chad, I would bet that some part of that vision that you guys are creating for yourself, there's some specificity in there around when you want to make this happen. Am I wrong? Or yeah,
you're absolutely right, because that's step 2 as you're leading us into for building a vision. And Bob, that is get specific.
Get specific. Like
we
did this. And look, we're at this place. We have Ben and Chris are, leading us. We're building a really large company here with multiple B valuation right now. And but they still laid out like a timeline last week for when we want to IPO. And they gave us like, there's different metrics. If we hit some different metrics, there's some timelines around IPO. And look, they were very clear that that's the starting line. Like once we get there, that's the starting line, because now we'll have capital to go do, put into place larger pieces of this vision. But they got specific on it. And everybody in that room was able to envision themselves as a part of that vision, Chad. And I think the next piece of building it is to tie some kind of an emotion to it. And look, Ben and Chris do a really, really good job of that.
Bob, that's hard when it's thousands of people, when it's Steve Jobs when he was leading Apple, of Elon Musk leading Tesla, or Bezos when you get companies that big and what Ben and Chris have built, it is very hard to get emotional to everybody out there if you don't figure out how to do it right. Sure. For Nita and I, it's very easy to make it emotional about the move to the EU. It's 2 of us. It's obviously that. Bob, what are some tips for making it emotional that come to mind for a large group of people as you're building your organization?
Well, okay. So if you set out building something with a vision, which I believe Ben has. And I think Ben would probably tell you that like over the years, he hasn't always started out in the beginning with the big vision. Right. And so there's been some companies.
Yeah, we know Ben had that drawing on his wall over his bed that had a vision, that he has far exceeded that vision. Yet at that time, that was the benchmark of what the vision would be. Then he recast the vision.
Yeah, I mean, he had the original, like he had 2 drawings, Bob. There's 2 drawings in our world. There's the drawing that became our software company. And that's a drawing that I first seen from him in 2015 and immediately went to work on building it. And probably by 2019, we kind of mostly had it with Ben. You've been adding some pieces since, but around that time when that vision was starting to kind of come into, become a little bit more clear in reality, then he had a second vision, which has become place and is, our co-founder Chris has helped him crystallize that vision. But here's why I think it's been on this particular journey more easy to get people bought in, because from the beginning we were casting a journey about making home ownership easier, more accessible, and using home ownership as a foundation to help people build wealth. Chad, because that's the vision, along the way over the last, call it 6 years, the people jumping on board, like they want to do the same thing. And when you get a bunch of people that want to do the same thing, it's way easier to get them invested emotionally, right?
Yeah.
Like they have a vested interest in making this reality because they believe it. So it's actually,
they have opportunities to have ownership in it.
I think that's
when you have ownership in it, and now your vision caster is talking about, when we hit this benchmark, here's what that looks like to you as an owner in our organization. And folks, you can do this if your organization is 4. You can do this if your organization is your family that you're talking about. There can still be that ownership in it and the return on it. Now you can get people emotional about, not only are we going where you wanted to go anyway, and we're helping you get there faster, we're going to reward you for it in more ways than one. Now you're tied into the ultimate success. Now you're even more emotional about what it could look like when this happens.
Love it. Love it.
What's the fourth step to wrap up the almost quick and easy vision casting, Bob? What's the last thing we have to do?
I think we got to share it, write it down, share it. Ben had a personal vision that you and I could probably both rattle off the 7 things that were on that list of things that he wanted to accomplish in his personal life and what that vision was. But why? Because he wrote it down, he shared it, he talked about it, he still talks about it to this day, even though I think 6 of those 7 things he's checked off the list, and he's got a new vision now. But it's write it down and share it. Yep. Right, Chad? This is not I don't know the scale of vision, but I mentioned that I want to go to the Kentucky Derby next year. Yep. You, because I said it, you've now decided you're going to hold me to account for it, right? So sharing it will get people invested in it. Will help. We'll put people who maybe aren't on the same mission as you, but it'll give them a chance to support you in it, to not bring you opportunities that don't align with it, right? Ben's not getting brought a lot of opportunities, and if he is, they're quickly rejected, that are kind of outside of the lane of what our vision is here.
Right. Folks, you got to share it. We talk about it. You just said Ben put it up on a screen. He used to share different visions with some of us that were in the inner circle. Walt Disney. It all started with Walt Disney having a drawing from, I don't know how many years ago it is. I mean, really, I have to go look. It's got to be a 70-year-old drawing that Walt Disney had. He shared it. It's not that someone found it hidden in a drawer that he drew it for himself. He shared this vision. And
I think he drew that thing up in the 30s. So that thing's almost 100 years old. Right? And it's still they're still kind of living that vision. Disney and it's one of the biggest companies in the world living out that vision that he drew on a piece of paper, and just had the vision to be able to see what it could potentially be. But had he not drawn that out, I mean, there's that probably doesn't exist. Think about all the other theme parks, Chad, all the other places that have come and gone over the years, the Knott's Berry Farms and but the ones that didn't have that big vision, lots of them have kind of set out on a similar path as Walt Disney and had similar ideas, but they never brought it, nobody ever brought it all together like he and they did.
Right. And because he had the vision, what was he able to do? Buy all that land in Orlando secretly through different companies and stuff. He knew what he needed to do to make it all happen. Folks, you've got to have it.
There was an anecdote that Ben shared of Walt's wife. Walt passed away before Walt Disney World opened, and so he never got a chance to go there. Just another reason, by the way, that Disneyland is actually the best of the Disney parks. It's not Disney World, but
Disney World is the same birthday as me, so Disney World is the best.
Really? I didn't know that. Disneyland opened on your birthday, the day you were born?
No, my year. So I count that. Yeah.
Got it.
Disney World opened on my year.
Got it. But there's the anecdote he shared is the wife, Ms. Walt Disney is there for the grand opening, and she has a friend there with her, and the friend says, "Oh, it's the only sad thing is that Walt didn't get a chance to witness this," and she retorted, "No, he saw all of this in his head before it was ever a reality." So
that's a great little story there, folks. All right, so we want to bring the vision to life. Here's some quick tips for it, and then we're gonna bring you some common mistakes, and then we'll challenge you to take the next step, folks. If you're bringing it to life, here's what you got to do. You got to talk about it constantly. Bob already shared what Ben said, right? You're going to hear me say this for the 50th time for some of you, because it's the first time for some, and it's the first time some are going to hear it, even though they've heard it 3 or 4 times. You've got to say it consistently in your meetings, when you're hiring somebody, when you're doing goal planning, whatever it is, and you have to reinforce all the behaviors that go with your vision and eliminate the ones that don't.
Here's can I add one to that, Chad, that I didn't have in the but as I'm sitting here, yes, you need to talk about it constantly, but I think one of the masterful things Ben has done is he has enlisted others of us to talk about it constantly. Yes. Right? I can share our vision. There's a whole bunch of people on our team that can share our vision and do go out and share it. I've been in front of a number of audiences of our company that hadn't heard it yet. And I got a chance to be the first one to share it with them. And so I better be bought in on it. I better have a really good, handle on being able to share it as well. Cause it is not just, even in your little 4-person company, that second person better be able to share that thing, because that's going to help us get the 5th person on board.
There you go.
So it's not just the job of the founder or the visionary, in our case, Ben and Chris. It's not just their job to do it. It will come to life faster and more broadly if you enlist others to share it as well.
Absolutely, right. There was an old commercial, I think it was Vidal Sassoon. I remember it clearly as a kid. It was, she told 2 friends, so they told 2 friends, so they told 2 friends, and the screen started with one woman in the corner, and then it became, she told 2 friends, so there were 3 people, and then they each told 2, so all of a sudden it became 7 people, and the screen just kept growing and growing, and before you knew it, the screen was full. And Bob, that was the vision, right? That was Vidal Sassoon, I believe it was, saying how fantastic our shampoo was, and she believed it, so she told everyone, so they told people, so they told people, and that's it. We all know what Tesla's vision is. We might not get the words right as they have it, yet everybody knows they want to bring solutions to energy problems in the country while allowing us still to have a lifestyle, right? Like moving around, whatever it is. I don't know the exact words. Amazon, it's got to be something around there about delivering in the convenience of everything out there so you could get it at the one click of a button, right? It's something along those lines. The more people who know it, the more people that can share it, the bigger your vision can therefore grow by finding the right people to hear it. All right, Bob, common mistakes. You want to just touch on them?
Too vague, Chad. Ben could have said, I want to sell the most houses in Bellingham, or I want to be the best agent in Bellingham. Instead, he decided that his vision was to help people build wealth through real estate. Like, don't get too vague on it. It can't be too complicated either. No. Like the flip side of that is it can't be this, 15 sentence thing where there's 5 objectives in there. And like, I need a cheat sheet to be able to remember what it is. Another common one, and I think I've done this, I think early on in our journey here, I might've been, it's never communicated. Ben's been guilty of this at times as well, I think. And he would probably tell you he wishes he would have communicated it more, but under communicating that thing would be a common mistake. These are stuff, basically the other side of how you bring it to life, right? And then the last one is the vision's not tied to action, Chad. I think that can be very dangerous. As making home ownership easier, the actions around that for us are all into like, what do we do for that homeowner to take things off their plate? And so it's like every acquisition that we're making, every action that we're taking at a company level is designed to tie back to that mission. And if the mission doesn't have some action elements in it, then it just becomes, the poster on the wall, which is not what a vision is, Chad.
Right. And you can see Ben saying no and Chris saying no to opportunities that are presented because they don't align with the vision. Somebody wants to sell their McDonald's franchise. No, that doesn't make home ownership easier in any way. Thanks. Have a nice day. We're not even going to waste time thinking about the conversation. We're going to move on to what is next in that. Okay. Here's our challenge, because at Win, Make, Give, it's not just about Bob and Chad babbling. It's about Bob and Chad helping themselves grow their lives and helping you along the way. So question number 1, can your team clearly articulate your vision? Now, Bob, before you could even answer that, can you articulate clearly your vision? Because if you don't know the vision for the Stewart family, there's no way your wife can know the vision for the Stewart family. And there's no way the boys can grow up knowing to articulate the vision for the Stewart family. So that's question number 1 to ask yourself. Can you clearly articulate it? And question number 2 is, does your calendar reflect it? Because I know so many people, Bob, who have great visions, powerful visions, and then if you looked at their calendar, they have nothing on there to do to lead towards making the vision a reality.
Yeah,
it's just a vision.
I mean, are you setting aside time to bring that thing to life? Like, are you just working in the mundane details that maybe one day you'll look up and realize I'm nowhere close? That's more of us, I think, Chad, is we're working in the mundane details of our business or our lives every day without, time dedicated to driving towards something.
Absolutely, Bob. All right. You brought us the topic. What's the last thought you want to leave our crew with as they're listening out there? Folks, before you say, I don't want to hear it and I'm out of here, and then Chad's going to get to the shutdown part. Look, folks, share the episode. Let others create a vision. Help others create a vision with you, near you, their own vision that might align near your vision. Whatever that could be, share this episode. Subscribe if you're not for some reason. If you are a new listener, subscribe so the episodes drop automatically for you. And don't forget to leave us a review if you've never done it. We love them. Now, Bob.
Look, my last thought is just go do something about, the first step, just go ask. Go ask two people in your organization, where are we headed? And then if you get the same exact answer, go ask two more. You're likely not going to get the same answer, and then you start doing something about it, Chad. So just like in order to bring your vision to life, it takes action. I'd say in order to create a vision in the first place or make sure that everybody's on the same page on a vision, it takes action. Go do something about it today.
Love it, Bob Stewart. Good challenge for our audience. Folks, get out there and go ask someone. Who knows what'll come out of the next episode. Until then, do good.